Welcome back, Giants fans. I mean, honestly, I don't know where to start. There's a lot going on right now with the New York Giants. I mean, I guess we'll start with Dave Gettleman and his retirement, but of course, there's a lot up in the air about Joe Judge, who's the next GM. There's a lot of candidates coming in, a lot of interviews possibly going on soon. So we'll touch on all that stuff here. This might be a long video, but oh well. So anyway, hope you guys enjoy the video. Leave a like, it always helps out a lot. And let's get into the video. So as I record this video, just more news will be coming out. Like this, for example, Jordan Raanan just said that Buffalo's assistant GM Joe Schoen has an interview with the Giants on Wednesday morning. So more stuff should come out. By the time I upload this video, it might be outdated. That's how crazy the news is right now. But anyway, let's get into Dave Gettleman, his retirement. I mean, first and foremost, I am happy he's gone. I've wanted him gone for 4 years, so I mean, it's like it's about damn time. But yeah, it's one of those things where you can make all the excuses in the world you want for that guy, but at the end of the day, he put himself in a terrible hole from the beginning, and the way he spoke to people, he was a narcissist, would talk down to the media, just the way he carried himself, some of those stories that have come out about him as a person is not very good. You know, I must say, he wasn't the most well-liked guy. Obviously, I'm happy that he's healthy. Hopefully, he's healthy entering his retirement here and can enjoy retirement in Cape Cod. So that was like my Peter Griffin / Dave Gettleman impression right there. But yeah, I mean, hopefully the guy's a nice retirement. But I'm still annoyed as a Giants fan that he was allowed to retire gracefully. Like, it's kind of annoying that, you know, Jerry Reese was pushed out the door and, you know, Reese won 2 Super Bowls as GM, had a better record, and Dave Gettleman just made a mockery out of this franchise. Like, he wasn't just a bad GM, it's the things he said and the way he carried himself that made it so much worse. You know, it's not like Dave Gettleman was just a humble guy and he got stuff wrong. He was a guy just strutting around, you know, chest out, I know everything, I know more than everybody else, and just acted like the worst GM in football over the past 4 years if you exclude Bill O'Brien, if he counts. But yeah, I mean, Gettleman was terrible from the start. He shot himself in the foot with the Barkley pick and not rebuilding in 2018. We can argue about that all day. You know, he made a signing in Nate Solder that, like, it was a clear overpay. I get why he did it, but it was a signing that never should have happened. They could have signed, like, a Cam Fleming type guy just to have, like, a stopgap left tackle. That's definitely a possibility. Signing the older guys, Antoine Bethea, signing, you know, Jonathan Stewart. They signed, you know, a bunch of old dudes that were washed up. You know, Golden Tate for $37.5 million, I think it was. You know, trading Jason Pierre-Paul just to replace his contract with Alec Ogletree. Like, terrible move. I mean, if you guys want the more in-depth version of why or how Dave Gettleman ruined the Giants, I made a video about that like 3 weeks ago, so I'll put that in the description if I remember, but I posted it like a few weeks ago, so you could find it. But yeah, I mean, he did a lot to just put the Giants in a bad spot, and Gettleman got better in 2020. I must say, when Joe Judge came in, Dave Gettleman really started to get better. There were 2 things. It was Judge came in, and John Mara said once in 2020's offseason that the Giants are now deeper into analytics than ever before. So I do think in 2018, 2019, they pretty much just relied on Dave Gettleman's football mind to make these decisions. But the problem is that Dave Gettleman's football mind is stuck in the 1980s, 1990s, and he can never adapt to the modern day NFL. So when you're out here spending premium draft picks on running backs and run stoppers, what's going to happen? It's a passing league. It's just unfortunate that the guy never got it. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like Gettleman could have been a lot better if he just understood the modern day NFL and wasn't so damn stubborn, but that's just the way it is. So I just don't know how he lasted 4 years, and, you know, Pat Shurmur lasted 2, because Pat Shurmur, I mean, he was done because of the roster that was given to him. Like, Pat Shurmur was given no chance. Even Joe Judge, I think he's a bad coach, but that guy was given basically no chance either. The roster here was never that good. Like, they never had an offensive line here. The pass rush always sucked. The quarterback position has been nothing special. So, like, how can a head coach really succeed on a team like this? Like, Joe Judge has shown me enough where, like, okay, there's enough clues out there that he's not a good head coach. But for a guy like Shurmur and even Judge to a degree, like, how are they supposed to put up good win-loss records with a roster like this? It's just not really possible. I mean, even like a Bill Belichick coaching these teams may have got them to 8 wins, 9 wins at most, but like at that point, it's just based on coaching. So I don't know. The coaches weren't good during that time. The GM was not good during that time, but I am happy he's gone. The Giants are a better organization with Dave Gettleman not in the organization. So that's a very obvious thing to me. It still sucks that John Mara is the one calling the shots. We know that. But John Mara has shown that maybe he is changing a bit. We'll go over that later. But for Gettleman, he just sucked a lot of like that passion out of me. Like, I really was a person that when the Giants lost games, I really like took it to heart. It took a while to get over. But when Gettleman came in, my expectations were so freaking low that I pretty much went into every Giants game over the past few years expecting to lose. And when your expectations are low, it's hard to be disappointed. Like, sure, I was disappointed the Giants are this bad and they are like the worst run organization in football. That hurts me, of course. But when I expect you to be bad and you're just being bad, it's kind of like, all right, that's pretty much what I expected. Like, at least when the Giants were playing, back in 2013, 14, 15, 16, well, they were good in 16, but, 2013 to 2015, I was still expecting the Giants to be good. So those losses hurt a lot more. But, when Gettleman came in and made the moves he made, I knew Eli Manning was not very good anymore at that time. He was kind of on the decline, obviously. I was not expecting many wins. So to have the Giants be a terrible team, it's like, it's not really a surprise at this point. So I just wish Gettleman had a better vision. Like, he really just did not have a vision and was not a forward thinker. He wanted to just win now. He went on the Michael Kay show in 2019 and admitted that he tried to win and rebuild at the same time. And like, if you follow sports, you can't do that. That's just not really possible. You have to pick one or the other. So I get that you don't want to go 0-16 every year, but you also can't sign old veterans to take up time from the rookie players and the young players. And, it's just not going to work out. So Gettleman could never pick the either or. And I guess the Giants had a semi-rebuild in 2019, but they also still, signed guys like Golden Tate. They still had Nate Solder. There were still veteran guys on the rosters. So it's not like it was completely a full-out rebuild here, but it's not really a surprise. That's the way Gettleman ran this team, unfortunately. And obviously, I've always wanted what's best for the Giants. I wanted to win games, go to the playoffs, win Super Bowls, but it was just too easy to see with Dave Gettleman that it was not going to happen. Like, this guy was just so out of touch. Like, he had no idea what he was doing, it seemed like, and he just kind of was doing everything he can to save his job, whether it was throw Pat Shurmur under the bus or go out there and spend a ton of money on a bunch of guys that probably weren't worth that money. So it was just tough as a Giants fan to get behind the vision of Dave Gettleman. If I can't get behind your vision as a franchise, it's hard for me as a fan to like completely buy in and be super excited for the season, have super high expectations. I just couldn't do it. Like, I'm very honest to myself. I don't really try to BS myself. So when I expected the Giants to win 6-7 games a year and they were a bad team, it's like, it sucks. I wish we were better, but I'm also not like completely shocked by this. It's like, oh, well, that was the most likely outcome because our GM stinks and the roster's not that good. So yeah, it's unfortunate, and I just pray that I can get behind this next GM's vision, whether it's a Joe Shane, Adam Peters, or something. Like, I just want to get behind that guy's vision and just be a more passionate fan once again. I still have passion, but I just want to believe in the Giants' direction. That was my problem. I could never believe in the direction of the Gettleman-Shurmur era, the Gettleman-Judge era. It was very tough for me personally to get behind that and be like, yeah, I totally trust you guys 100%. You guys are doing it the right way. I could not do that. So hopefully with this next regime, hopefully Judge is not a part of that. Whether it is Joe Shane, who seems to be the front runner, or somebody else as a GM, I can get behind that next regime and hopefully start to believe in the direction of the New York Giants once again. So enough of the Gettleman stuff. On to the head coaching position, if Joe Judge will stay, / the new GM candidates and all that. So what we do know is that the Giants will have a new GM. What we don't know is that if the Giants will have a new head coach. We don't know about that yet. I mean, Joe Judge is still hanging around. There might be another meeting tonight or tomorrow with Joe Judge and ownership to see what's going to happen here. But it seems like the new GM may determine the fate of Joe Judge, which I think is the right thing to do. Like, if Joe Shane is the best candidate in their mind, just as an example, and Joe Shane wants to bring in a different head coach, probably Brian Daboll at that point, then you let him do it. Like, you don't keep Joe Judge just because John Mara thinks he found the next Parcells and Belichick. That's not going to happen. So, let the new GM decide Judge's fate. Don't let him stay just because you want him. You want this to work out. Like, we've seen enough as fans. We know Joe Judge is not a good head coach, and maybe that could change, of course. I don't want to put the nail in the coffin completely for Joe Judge, but I think we've seen enough this year as fans where we're like, yeah, this guy's lost and he has no idea how to fix it. So the Giants Twitter page or whatever released some quotes from John Mara and Steve Tisch. So we'll start with John Mara first. This will be a comprehensive search for our next general manager. We are looking forward to a person who demonstrates exceptional leadership and communication abilities, somebody who will oversee all aspects of our football operations, including player, personnel, college scouting, and coaching. So the coaching part there is interesting because you're thinking head coach there. So John Mara kind of put it out there like, hey, I'm not going to decide everything anymore. I want a GM that's going to come in here and make all the decisions. And that's what I think we want as Giants fans. We want John Mara to get the hell out of the way and hire a GM that's actually knows what he's doing. So if John Mara can please just stop getting in the football operations, we as Giants fans would be very happy about that. So Steve Tisch went on to say, it is an understatement to say John and I are disappointed by the lack of success we have had on the field. We are united in our commitment to find a general manager who will provide the direction necessary for us to achieve the on-field performance and results we all expect. So not as much was said there. But with John Mara, at least he said he wants a guy to oversee everything. So that's the big aspect of it, obviously. Now, the Giants have had a ton of potential GM interviews coming up here. They put in a request for a lot of guys. I just mentioned Joe Schoen's interview is on Wednesday morning, which is very exciting. Well, tomorrow morning, actually, because, I thought Joe Schoen was one of the better candidates out there. So for us to interview him, the first guy, it seems like right now, based on an Ian O'Connor tweet, that Joe Schoen is like the front runner right now for the Giants GM job. That's very exciting. And it's exciting because if Joe Schoen comes over here, there's a chance that he might bring Brian Daboll, who is the Bills offensive coordinator. So that would mean no more Joe Judge. If Joe Schoen's hired, there is a chance at least that he brings over his offensive coordinator from Buffalo and Joe Judge is gone. That's what I hope for at least. So that'd be a nice combination there for the Giants at GM/head coach. So we'll go over the list of candidates now. I'm going to be honest. I have not familiarized myself with all the GM candidates yet and some of the guys the Giants want to interview. I do know some of them, obviously. A couple names I'm familiar with, but there are some guys I'm not really too sure of. So we'll go over the names real quickly and kind of keep you guys in the loop. But anyway, let's get into that. So this is from NYG Daily on Twitter. He posted some of the guys the Giants want to interview. The first one's Adrian Wilson, Cardinals VP of Pro Scouting. And I'm like, wait, is that the same Adrian Wilson that played safety for the Arizona Cardinals? And it turns out it is. Adrian Wilson's in his early 40s and he's been with the Cardinals now for a little bit. I think he retired back in 2012. So I do like that he's a younger guy and he has playing experience, of course. So a lot of people have hyped him up, so I can get on board with that, of course. I would not be totally against it. There's a Ryan Cowden, I think it's how you pronounce it, Ryan Cowden, Titans VP of Player Personnel. I have not heard much about him, but Peter Schrager, I think, had a nice bit about him a couple years ago, so there are some nice things said about him. Really, the main part is, though, I'm happy the Giants are finally going outside the organization. This GM search is like 1,000 times better than what we saw in 2017, because when Jerry Reese was let go, they interviewed like 3 guys that were with the organization, and the other guy was Louis Riddick. This GM search right now is a whole lot better, so I thank John Mara for that off the bat. Next is Monty Osenfor. I talked about him in my GM candidate video. Not much of a surprise there. He is the Titans Director of Player Personnel. So he was with the Patriots from like 2013 to 2018, I believe it was. Went to the Titans the past couple of years. He is one of those guys that at one point is probably going to get a GM job, and this could be a chance for him to get it. Now, the problem is that for us Giants fans, we are concerned that if a former Patriots executive gets this GM job, that means he's more likely to work with Joe Judge, and that's what John Mara probably wants. So that's the downside to it. So I kind of am against it for that reason, but Osenfor as an individual, not a bad guy, I don't think. Here's one I never heard of. Ryan Poles, or Poles, it's probably Poles, it's spelled like Poles. He's the Chiefs Executive Director of Player Personnel. So anyone that comes from the Chiefs, I am on board for that. All I know is that Poles is now 36 years old, used to play offensive line at Boston College and actually played with Matt Ryan, funny enough. But the fact that he's 36 and coming from the Chiefs, I mean, I can probably get behind that just on those facts alone, but I don't know much about the guy, so I can't speak too much on that. Then, of course, there's Joe Schoen, a guy that I talked about recently. He's one of my favorite candidates. So if I can sign up for Joe Schoen right now, I would. And especially if he brings over Brian Daboll to be the head coach, I feel like that would be a nice move there for the Giants overall. And a lot of Giants fans like Joe Schoen a lot. So I think that would be a move that I think as a Giants fan base, we can universally agree that Joe Schoen is a very big upgrade at GM for the Giants. So maybe that's a move we can, see happening there. And right now, as I mentioned with the Ian O'Connor tweet, that he is the front runner for the Giants GM job. So we'll see how that turns out. Now, a couple of 49ers guys. One guy is Ran Carthon. I've never heard of him. Apparently, his son played for the Giants back in like the late 80s, I believe. So some of you might be familiar with that name, but he's the 49ers Director of Player Personnel. Don't know much about the guy, unfortunately, but the other guy I do know about is Adam Peters. I was thrilled when I saw this last night. I was so happy. Obviously the Brooklyn Nets losing last night ruined my night, but to see the Giants interview or try to interview Adam Peters, I mean, that was something I love seeing, because I never thought that the Giants would go that route of interviewing Adam Peters, but Peters right now, he's next to Ed Dodds, is one of my favorite GM candidates. So, if I had to choose right now who I want, I'm going Adam Peters. I think Joe Schoen's is a very close number 2 for me. But, Adam Peters is a guy that's gotten a ton of credit for what he's done with the Broncos and the 49ers. He keeps moving up the ladder there. There's rumors about making him the actual GM and pushing down John Lynch, apparently. I mean, they love that guy over there. And, Adam Peters is a young guy, innovative guy, positional value guy. I love his philosophy as a GM, so I would be thrilled by that move. And the 49ers, although they face a lot of injuries, have a very talented roster. They are a well-run organization. They actually do the things Gettleman wants to do, which is like run the ball, stop the run, and pressure the passer. They're good at that stuff. So I would love Adam Peters for sure. So I don't know what's going to happen there, but I will say at least the Giants are making an effort to just interview the right guys, it seems like. There's also a new one that came out recently. So the Giants will interview Cardinals Vice President of Player Personnel, Quintin Harris. So I don't know who Quintin Harris is, but they will interview him on Thursday, according to Albert Breer. So, I have not researched that guy whatsoever. But yeah, the Giants are at least now, like, this is like a list of like 8 or 9 guys. Like, they are actually going out and doing an actual GM search this time, which is all I wanted as a Giants fan. Like, don't interview 3 in-house guys and bring in Louis Riddick. Like, that's not a real GM search. This, at least, is a real GM search. And I think as Giants fans, we can get behind that for sure. I know that John Mara has to earn our trust back, but like so far, we're off to a good start. Will I be very disappointed if Joe Judge is back next year? Absolutely. But right now, there is at least a chance that we get a really good, young, innovative GM and a new head coach that the GM wants to bring in. So I'd be thrilled by that stuff. So, I'm trying to be positive, but I don't want to get my hopes up either. Like, as much as I will love to have Joe Schoen, Adam Peters, I'm not going to get my hopes up. We'll see what happens here. But so far, if you compare this to 2017, the Giants are light years ahead of the GM search they once did, 4 or 5 years ago. So that's the positive news for the Giants right now. Now, my concern, of course, and I'm kind of stealing this from Bobby Skinner of Talking Giants. He made this tweet like 20, 30 minutes ago, and it's a very good one, is that how do we know that these GM candidates won't say they want to keep Joe Judge as head coach just to appease John Mara? Because we know John Mara wants to keep Joe Judge. If that were not the case, Joe Judge would have been gone yesterday morning at 9, 10 o'clock. But of course, John Mara wants to have Joe Judge work out. So if you're a GM candidate for this job, why wouldn't you tell John Mara, I want to keep Joe Judge? That's the problem here. Like, that's why they should have gotten rid of Judge yesterday at 9, 10 o'clock, along with like Matt Nagy, Mike Zimmer, Brian Flores, shockingly. Like, that's why Joe Judge should have been gone yesterday. Now you have the potential of these GMs coming in here and telling you, John Mara, what you want to hear of like, oh, I want to keep Joe Judge. I think he has a great, future as a head coach. Although you may not think that whatsoever. I might be interviewing for the job, and I don't like Joe Judge. I might come in there and say, hey, John, Joe Judge has a great future. I want to keep that guy as head coach. We'll make it work. And John Mara will be like, oh, great, I want to keep him too. So we're on the same page. It's just, I don't want to see that. Like, you want to have a trustworthy search for these GMs, and I can't trust anybody. Like, you can't trust these guys. If a GM comes in there, an outside GM who has no connections to Judge, and tells you they liked what they saw from Joe Judge, he's probably lying to you. Because I don't know how anyone right now, based on what we've seen the past month or two of Joe Judge, can tell you they liked what they saw. They're probably just lying to your face, Mr. Mara. That's just how it is. So don't fall for that crap. Actually hire the right GM this time. Don't hire the best GM that wants to work with Judge. Hire the best GM. Don't hire the best one that wants to work with Judge. We don't want that. We want the best GM. So, as I've said, in my opinion, Peters is my number 1 guy. Joe Schoen number 2. I don't know a whole lot about the rest of these guys, but based on what I've heard from other people, this is a good list of candidates. So I am proud of the Giants so far for the way they have conducted this GM search. I am happy that Dave Gettleman is gone. But we are not out of the woods yet, because if Joe Judge is back next year, that is not fully cleaning house to me. That's just doing a half-ass effort once again. So if we can get rid of Judge and get a really good GM, I will be very happy. I will come on here and be very freaking happy for the first time in a long time about the Giants. So yes, that will be exciting, and hopefully in the next couple of days we get to see that. So anyway, I think that'll do it. I mean, there's obviously a lot to talk about, probably stuff I missed on, but if I missed anything, we'll talk about that in the future, of course. But yeah, let's just hope they move on from Judge. I think that's what we all want. At least 90% of Giants fans, well, at least 80% of Giants fans want that to be the case. Now, if Joe Schoen realistically, like if a guy like Joe, I always go back to Joe Schoen because I do think he has the best shot at this job, but let's say it's Joe Schoen and he really does think Joe Judge is a good head coach. I guess I can live with it, but there's no way of us knowing that. Like, I can't tell if Joe Shane's actually telling the truth about that or if he's lying to get the job. Like, that's two different things. But I don't know. We'll see what happens, but it's hard for me as a Giants fan to get behind the vision of Joe Judge once again. He talks a big game, but his actions prove that he is a very clueless head coach at some points. So, yeah, that was disappointing the way he ended the year, and the Giants were not competitive towards the end of the season, but maybe Joe Judge has a bright future in coaching. I don't know. I mean, I can't really predict the future. He's only 40 years old now. He's just turned 40, so maybe Joe Judge in year 3 has like a breakout year. We talk about that from players all the time, but maybe like a Zach Taylor, for instance. Maybe, Zach Taylor in his 3rd year for the Bengals had a breakout year. Maybe Joe Judge has a breakout year 3. I don't know. But I just feel like Judge has embarrassed himself enough, and he's looked at as a clown by the national media right now, so I just find it hard to believe the Giants would actually bring him back, but nothing surprises me about the Giants anymore. I've seen it all. So anyway, the good news, actually, I forgot to mention this bit of news. This was big, that Kevin Abrams is not getting an interview. So I love hearing that. We have no fear about Kevin Abrams getting this job now. So there was a report that came out yesterday, actually. This was funny, and it pissed me off at the same time. So Joe Judge apparently wanted Kevin Abrams to be his GM. Like, I hated seeing that, because that Joe Judge in his mind does not think Kevin Abrams is the best candidate for the job. He just wants to keep his head coaching job. Like, once again, it's all about making John Mara happy. What would make John Mara happier than for Joe Judge to tell him, I think that Kevin Abrams is the right guy for the job? Obviously, John Mara wants to hear that. Does Joe Judge actually believe that? Probably not. But he wants to say it to John Mara to keep his job. Like, it's so obvious. I have no idea how John Mara doesn't see through this stuff, but I guess he doesn't. But yeah, that rumor came out yesterday that Joe Judge wanted to have Kevin Abrams be his GM, but we found out, I think late last night, that Kevin Abrams will not be interviewed for the Giants GM job. So love hearing that. Thank you. So once again, we'll see what happens, but let's try not to get our hopes up, but I'm feeling pretty good right now. We just have to hopefully move on from the head coach and get the right GM. And maybe, just maybe, I can start believing in the direction of the Giants once again for the first time in like 5 years. That would feel great as a Giants fan. So anyway, that'll do it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I will talk to you guys next time.